first ban away from you, but Kalista, as always, going to eat the first ban on red side.
Typically on red side, it's going to be Kalista, Ryze, and Echo. That's kind of the three staple bans. Not surprised to see the Azir taken away. Again, Yu is all about the control mages. Can he play the assassins? Yes, but we talk about, you know, the fact that what placement is Yu filling when he comes onto the Snake roster, and it's to fill Baka shoes, to be about zone control. Flandre is your hyper carry. All you need to do is support him.
Yep, and Flandre has gotten a lot of support from his team. This particular split really going to more carries. There's a Fizz, speaking of top lane carries, going to get banned away there from Xiaogu, and a Ryze ban, which means, according to Frostgoon, should have an Echo ban following the last one there from Snake, if QG don't ban.
I would definitely ban Echo against Swift.
I would too, even though ZZR can play it. I mean, look, you could probably play it as well. Want to make sure that stays away. So Ezreal banned away from Xiaogu. Seen quite a lot of Ezreal this weekend. I feel like every time we see him, he looks great. But a Cassidy ban from Snake does leave open that Echo.
They're getting Echo or they're getting Shen.
Or Nidalee.
Ooh, okay. If they lock in Nidalee, I would immediately second rotation Shen Echo.
Yep, I mean,
just the synergy between those two champions is disgusting if you think about the dive potential. Obviously with Echo's reset on his R, and then you throw the Stand United onto it.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the top half of the map for Snake having a lot of flexibility. Shen Echo would be just fine here. Even just Echo, they could kind of fit him somewhere else if they really needed to. But we've seen QG again really prioritize their first pick. They usually do a lot of good things with whatever champion they decide to pick for themselves. So given that they're taking this long to decide and they finally settle on Victor, you have to think they've got a plan here. That
was the other pick that's kind of high priority, especially between both Yu and Doinby. Yu is an incredible Victor player. The Cassidy ban was targeted specifically at Doinby, who went off on it the last time he had that in his hands.
And one of the most common picks into Victor happens to be Cassidy. So kind of a double duty ban there for Snake, although QG see right through it and snap off the Victor, which does leave, again, the likes of Shen, the likes of Echo, even Nidalee if Snake want to take it away from Swift over on their side. But I think QG have actually drafted well, but Snake, with the expected response Frostgoon told us about, there's Shen and Echo.
It's like I can predict the future. Okay, so
this is... you watch a lot of LPL.
It's like I watch a lot of LPL. This is how this works. Again, Echo, you think his kit is so good for dives.
Yep.
And likewise, you have to take the Echo away because there's no way in hell you can give Xiaogu, Victor, and Echo. The parallel convergence on top of the gravitational field stack is just disgusting. So it told me already that Snake, okay, they take the Victor, we have to take this away. Shin just synergizes so well with Echo's dive potential.
Yep, so we'll see what Snake can do with a very good start to their draft, but Vayne actually locked in for TNT. Might be going to Vayne Janna, a very popular dual lane recently, particularly in the LPL, and Xiaogu. They decided to put all their eggs in the bottom lane basket. There is Vayne Janna.
This is my favorite duo lane. So I was actually really critical of Vayne when Sivir was in the height of her play, and I'm still fairly critical of Vayne. I think that there are better AD carries that do more for you in terms of your late game hyperscaling as well as your siege potential, because I think siege is super important, especially as we see a Jinx being hovered by Martin. But Janna shores up so much of Vayne's weaknesses that Vayne Janna, I think, is top tier duo lane right now. Without Janna, no, Vayne, go away.
Yep.
I'd rather see a Kog'Maw, but
Xiaogu being one of the teams that have really prioritized this particular lane. There are specific players, I feel like, that just always want to play Vayne, and the supports are sort of going back to Janna. Now, it does deny it away from Ella as well, which is nice, but Braum Jinx is the answer. Not a bad response.
Yeah, and this is kind of the other thing, too. So it's like, Jinx is going to do very similar things to Vayne in terms of your hyperscaling potential, but Jinx is going to offer so much more in your siege. The big difference between Vayne and Jinx, if you think about kind of the new 5.13 itemization and how it changes the mid laners and when they're making their backs and when mid laners are finding their power spikes, Vayne is interesting in that she's technically going to hyperscale into late game, but she also has a mid-game power spike when she completes her Blade of the Rune King, on top of Janna having level 9 with her shield, which then grants you bonus AD that's worth a flat BF sword. So it sounds weird to say that Vayne Janna will have a mid-game power spike, but they will, and then they'll continue to hyperscale.
Of course, the issue there is don't fall behind, because as soon as that lane falls behind, it goes horribly wrong for you.
But on the other side, people like Jinx need 3 core items before they can start taking off. So Jinx will not have that available. She needs to have the BF upgrade, the Zeal upgrade, as well as the Last Whisper before she becomes that true hyper scary threat.
Yeah, so we'll see how that develops here. Is Xiaogu going to take Maokai and Gragas as their last few picks? Swift opting away from a bit more of the aggressive jungle, going to take Gragas instead.
No surprise, actually, to see that from Swift. I really like Gragas and Janna whenever they're on the same team because you effectively have both of the best disengages in the game, the Cask as well as the Monsoon, and it just makes so much sense. We talked about Xiaogu, you know, what kind of 5v5 composition do they play? They play zone control, and that's exactly what this is. You've got the Victor, the Maokai, you've got 2 amazing resets on the Monsoon and the Cask, and it's all about TNT just rolling around and going crazy.
I was going to say, if you're going to take 2 resets, you might as well set up everything you can for Vayne and Victor. So TNT, going to be a lot of weight on his shoulders in this particular game, you have to think, given that he is on a nice scaling AD carry. But Snake, how do they want to round out this comp? They've got so many options from just their first 4 picks. Very solid carry for Martin. Great utility and options across the board from the top half of the map between Braum, Echo, and Shen. You hovered the Lulu before. He might be going for a control mage here, which does put a lot of eggs in Martin's basket. But they're going to trust in their AD carry.
We're going to look for a brawl. It's 5v5 time, Pastry. Okay, so effectively, these comps are doing very similar things. There's more zone control, more AoE from Xiaogu, but Snake, it's all about your dive potential, your pick potential, and you have a ton of siege with that Jinx ramped up to level 9 because she will have all 5 points into her minigun, which means her attack speed can scale ridiculously. This one's all about TNT. This one's all about Martin. This is Jinx versus Vayne.
Yeah, it's almost like Crystal's back in the lineup, just snuck in there. Back on a hypercarry. It's not Draven, it is Jinx instead. But a very similar looking comp that we've seen Snake, honestly, just run all of 2015.
I'm so excited for this.
It was going to be a great match regardless. I think the teams have drafted well. I think you look over at QG and you think about the first big victory and wonder, what are you doing? Like, are you crazy? Why give away such strong picks in Shen and Echo? But I think both teams have navigated the draft very well, probably came away with Champ Select with exactly what they wanted.
You also have to think that Shen and Echo have great dive potential. We talked about that in the very beginning of the draft. It's really scary to dive a Maokai, to dive a Janna, and to dive a Victor. Victor obviously can just drop his gravitational field, drop the Chaos Storm, so he can very easily attempt to trade 1-for-1. So the fact that, you know, you're giving that up, that's going to be a weakness against you, but then you pick really scary champions to dive anyway that will have a lot of CC and a lot of reset.
Yep. So things can get crazy in the mid and late game here. We'll have to see how they all develop as we pop through our lineups, but this is the important one. TNT on the Vayne versus Martin on the Jinx. 2 very good AD carries recently. Martin, of course, coming in over Crystal as that sub player. But bottom lane, it's going to be all about them, especially once we get to the late game. If we get there and the game's even, expect craziness.
Expect me to go in really hard about how Janna Vayne lane works.
I'm sure we'll get there.
Oh, yeah.
Within the first few minutes. You guys can option me for that. Nope, I don't know what that was, but that was interesting. It's QG and Snake line themselves up.
Isn't that what you do on your weekends?
No, I cast the LPL, actually.
Oh, that's right. It is Sunday. I dance.
Well, you dance? Well, we'll see what dances this game. Let's get into the riff for game number 1. And welcome back onto the Rift here for Snake versus Xiaogu, our opening game of our last LPL day for the weekend here for us. An exciting match to open day 3 here. EDG have already played. They've gotten their 4 wins and their 6 points, but these 2 teams are nice and close on the ladder as well. Going to be looking for the 2-0.
Let's open this matchup and let's dispel some rumors about the Vayne Janna lane. So widely considered one of the weakest lanes as far as a 2v2 is considered. I want to go all the way back to Season 4 World Championship when Zero and Uzi ran the Janna Vayne lane against SK. They were playing, I believe, Kog'Maw and Qiao, and just got punched in the face repeatedly. So how this lane works and why it's considered weak is because you don't have a lot of tools in terms of your wave control and your wave management. Janna, I mean, the best she can do is she can auto-attack some creeps or she can throw her tornado through it, but there's no AoE, there's no wave push potential, whereas Jinx is going to have the AoE on her rocket form, Sivir, boomerangs, things like that. So what you do is you just shove Vayne in, and then she just opens herself up to being chipped away by auto attacks. And that's why Vayne is considered a weak laner. If the wave is even, if Vayne ever gets to trade with you on an even creep wave, she will almost always win. You have to think the Janna shield on top of the tumble empowered auto attack is just absurd. If you're level 3, that means you have your condemn, you tumble forward with the Janna shield, apply the silver bolts proc, and then push them away. There's nothing you can do against that trade.
I would hope Vayne was good in a 1v1.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. So people say that, you know, Janna Vayne, that's a terrible lane. Why would you ever 2v2 that, especially as Martin and Ella actually trying to dodge it?
Yep, that's what I was going to say. They're actually leaving there, going to the top lane instead. So we'll start here in the mid lane. Doinby versus you. Shield level 1 there for Lulu. Doinby getting some auto attacks down with that laser. But we are going to have Jinx probably trying to fast push these lanes, you have to think.
Likewise, this also does unlock Ella on that Braum. Now, Braum is not a very strong lane champion. His level 1 is incredibly potent because of his Q, the concussive blows, and the extra magic damage. But after level 1, you know, levels 2 through 5, not the strongest laner.
No.
Again, can't augment the creep waves.
Get out of the way here. Is this going to ward over to the blue buff? Ella going to give some vision over. Zizio and Flandre might think about invading on that side, given that it's their strong side of the map. But I do like the lane swap here from Snake, trying to set up Martin early. Because like you said, those early levels are the scary ones for Jinx Braum.
And likewise, Snake lane swap a lot, which is actually fairly curious because you would think with such a top or a great top laner like Flandre that they would try to get him into the most 1v1s possible. But even when he's on a champion like Fizz, who's a great duelist, they'll always lane swap.
And that's just something I love about Flandre as a player, is they do have a blue buff invade, parallel convergence going down. They have to get away from this. Buff going to get locked up there. Swift is stunned. Who's going to get it? Smite goes down. I believe Swift got it. Now ZZR going to be in trouble, but Flandre finds the port in. Swift going to get stunned up by the Braum passive. China Shield's not enough. And Martin gets first blood.
No idea what Xiaogu are thinking trying to contest the blue buff on Snake's strong side. You know, we talked about it in the lane swap. You have the numbers advantage right there. They tried to steal the blue buff away. Martin walks down, says, hey, you don't have an AD carry, picks up first blood as well as the buffs.
And you can see the power of all of that CC early on. Echo, Shen, Braum was a whole host of lock up there onto Swift. So buff gets donated back over. Success there for Snake in the early game. And I agree, just a strategic misplay there from Xiaogu.
Really punishing specifically against Swift as well. And we talked about it, you know, Swift is a very aggressive jungler, and sometimes his teams can support him well enough where his crazy plays will really pay off and have a huge swing in power, but sometimes he just gets his face kicked in.
Actually, Snake gonna maybe dive here. They've seen 3 champions up in the top lane. Nice place ward there from Snake. Make sure they can take the Grump safely. It seems that they're trying to stop this fast push because TNT's in the bottom lane pushing happily there into that tower. But right now, they're doing a good job of trying to salvage the early game situation.
They thought that a dive could happen just because they know that Snake had their numbers there, so they were moving as many pieces as possible to make sure that V is prioritizing his farm. Because the one advantage that they have made out with in this lane swap is that V is 12 CS right now to Flandre's 2.
And I think that's just a good indication of how the players themselves like to play. V is very farm heavy as a top laner, really traditional in that sense. And Flandre, like you said, despite how good he is as a carry player, part of the reason he's such a good top laner, to me at least, is that he does get away with really low econ starts and still manages to carry in the late game.
No, I completely agree. And like you said, it just speaks to the strength of Flandre, the fact that they have so much confidence that you don't need to give him the 1v1 and he can still take off.
Yeah, mid lane actually I think is where the next bit of action they're looking at least. Flandre steps into the lane. CZR looking for a dive here onto Doinby, who's gotten quite low, but Lulu should back away here. Swift actually coming in for the counter gank. Nice little ward going to spot off Echo. And Doinby, he'll be safe for now, but a little low on mana in the mid lane.
Snake really trying to look around at these early plays, making the most that, you know, Flandre is level 2, does have his Toth available, but needs to start farming it up because V, not just in the experience, but again in the gold, is starting to run away with this.
One of the unfortunate things about Shen, not a very good jungler, as it turns out. So it has trouble with the jungle follow. Makes sense of looking for ganks instead. But I agree, it's a bit awkward given the situation. If this continues for about 5 more minutes, Snake are going to find their top laners with a very large discrepancy.
Yep. Big thing, though, is, again, the advantage that was given over to Martin initially, so did get that first blood. Hasn't backed to Spinned yet, but thankfully, on the other side, TNT is pretty even in terms of CS and gold.
Keeping the wave nice and flat there in the bottom wave as well, but Flandre going to join in, collect some golden experience for himself, most likely just XP. And they're going to try and push down this tower. No response here as ZZR joins in the top as well. And the first tower will fall to Snake in the top lane.
And unfortunately for Xiaogu, Swift really isn't in a position to collapse onto the dragon and to trade any sort of objective. Now, he is on the bottom side, but no one is making any sort of movements towards that objective.
And now Snake will back away. They'll get extra gold for themselves. Yu's actually gone back already. Got himself a Chalice and an Amp Tome to joining with that lane. Doinby as well, as Martin gets all of the CS tonight there and takes the tower away. Pops a ward down for his trouble. But Jinx is going to go back, spend a bunch of gold here. And then if she joins in a 2v2, that advantage that we talked about Vayne having is not going to be there for the next few minutes.
And so much priority given to Martin, making sure that the rest Snake back off the tower so he gets all of the extra gold as well as all of the extra experience. Snake understand that all of their baskets are in Martin's hands.
Yep. And there's a BF sword
Eggs
and
in his
boots.
baskets.
Yep.
I went baskets into hands.
That's fine. It worked out. As we do see BF sword finished up for Jinx and a pair of boots. So Martin going to run down to the bottom lane, try and contest and save that tower. Ella actually got there in time to save it. TCT, tagged by Winter's Bite. It's going to have to get out. And this might actually see Dragon over to Snake, which would be crazy to think.
They have complete control of the Dragon because they have the teleport up into the top side. They have an advantage, you know, the fact that V doesn't have his tower behind him, as well as the initial gold advantage by taking the standing tower as well as the first blood. So this is what we talked about. Xiaogu, they're fantastic in a 5v5, one of the best, but so are Snake, and Snake are also decent at early macro play.
I feel like their level ones are just so clever for us.
They're very smart about the early game, yeah.
And you can see Flandre now catching up in CS, level 5 on the Shen, caught up in experience, especially on the Makai, which is nice and important. And all of a sudden, it seems like Snake, things have just gone perfectly in this early game. Even Flandre, who was, what, 15 CS behind at one point, caught right back up to about 10 between.
Yeah, he's still about 13.
It's close to the 15.
It's about a kill worth of gold, but he does also have the added assist, so the gold difference between them is probably, you know.
I mean, the other issue is that V can't go back to the top lane. Flandre is holding that wave there as long as he can, so he will catch up.
V shouldn't. I feel at this point he's going to have to catch the wave now, but he almost needs to push this forward and then make a quick back and then run towards the Dragon Pit if Xiaogu want any sort of front to try to save this one.
Find out soon. Flandre about to be 6 here as well, so
yep. It's only about the ultimate. 100 gold difference between these two top laners.
Is it just me, or am I the only one that's really happy Flandre is playing Shen? Because this feels like a Flandre champion.
Split push oriented.
Yeah. Global
presence, the ability to flank from the side.
Yep. Just a really cerebral champion.
Dive potential onto backlines.
Yeah, that's who. As Martin and Ella teaming up on the bottom side, going to really stick it to TNT. These poke trades with the rockets, especially as Martin gets more levels, going to be trouble. In an all-in, definitely favor the Xiaogu bottom lane, but as far as just getting with the rockets and poking, that's all in Snake's favor.
And this is exactly how you play against a Vayne. You keep her shoved in, so while she's in the auto attack animation to CC, you're able to trade free autos onto her and chip away at her. But Martin pushes them completely off the tower, and looks like Jinx going to get some heavy damage here.
Yeah, Martin going to do 50% of the turret's health, shield down. Going to take some more damage here, so pop a couple rockets in there as well. CZR over on the Raptor cam might be lining up a gank here in mid lane, but Snake ignoring the Dragon for now, just wanting the early gold objectives instead. Although, as I say that, CZR and you are going to go over to the Dragon.
And Xiaogu, we talked about it, you know, if Snake are going to put all of the resources top, then usually the trade that you make is the first top tier tower for the Dragon, but not only do they lose the top tier tower, their own blue buff, but they also lose the Dragon, and Snake in full control of this early game.
They're about to lose their bottom turret as well, I think, so Snake really in control here as Flandre. Going to keep things honest here on the top. Actually pretty far behind now that V's joined back in the lane, so Flandre's catch-up has been nice, but he's 30 CS down as this wave crashes in.
He's got about 8 creeps there.
See how many he can get. Going to try and even that up as best he can. V actually going to go back now, going to get his Catalyst. Hoping for a Rod of Ages, as always, but probably going to see a Righteous Glory instead.
I don't...
I'm with you, Fruscaroon.
It's 5.13. Please stop building Righteous Glory.
With you as well, but we'll have to see. If any player's going to do it, I feel like V's a good candidate for the Rod of Ages.
If any team is going to do it, Xiaogu.
Or unless Flandre wants to go real crazy. But then we'll see like Trinity Force. Like he'll go really off the deep end. Flandre either goes super standard or super deep. There is no mid-ground for this player.
He builds Trinity Force on every single champion.
Yeah. Remember the Echo Cinderhawk game?
I'm not even joking.
No, you're not. It's TNT. Going to keep this tower alive in bottom lane here and get a bit of extra CS, but Jinx goes back. There's a dagger, almost enough for the Zerkagrees, but not quite there. And a pickaxe as well means that Martin just wants to do the only thing Jinx really wants in the early game, and that's take structures.
And this is really important to Jinx. We talk about where her power spike is. Initially, it's going to be once the Infinity Edge is completed because you will have that crit damage, and over an elongated fight, as long as you're able to out-time the final hour from Vayne, you will beat her, just because she relies really much on those, heavily on those added stats that she'll get through the duration of her ultimate. But then Jinx will kind of fall off like any 3-item AD carry, and she really needs that armor penetration as well as the attack speed before she shoots back up in her relevance.
Yep. So Martin pretty close there, but both components of the Blade of the Ruin King completed. TNT has had pretty free lane to farm here, so he's nice and comfy on the item build. It's CZR, Ella, and you all walk into the enemy jungle, but Swift smites away the Raptor.
It's really important that he's able to get the Razor Beak. Sharp beak.
Yep.
He got the oracles, and it's super important just because Snake have been so far forward into this jungle, placing these deep vision. And so you'll see a lot of LPL teams do this, that when they look to push in and invade, that they'll deny the Raptor camp as much as possible. Clear Love, a big proponent of doing that.
Yep, makes a lot of sense here. As Martin and Ella going to walk towards mid lane, actually have taken out the bottom side turret, so might be thinking about trying to take more structure. Scuttle Crab, though, the first order of business, and they'll take it away.
It's important.
It's really important. As you here, going to have some friends join him in the lane, going to try and push down this tower. But nice response here from Xiaogu, as they've already got TCT and Swift in the area.
Xiaogu are actually really clever about doing this. So this is pretty common and standard that once the AD carry has the, like you said, BF Sword and Pickaxe, the flat AD items, as opposed to completing the Infinity Edge, that they'll rotate into the mid lane and just kind of take towers. You know, you start them in the top lane, take that, bottom lane, take that, go to mid lane. Xiaogu will rotate all of their members into the mid lane, and they'll try to make a pick or start a team fight there, knowing that the AD carry will be there, and the mid laners typically transitioning to the bottom lane, as you see you doing right now.
Yep, got his thing. He's going to go down to the bottom and challenge TNT. Ella and Martin going to do what they can here in the mid lane, but don't be especially if he's in the lane. We see this a lot with the likes of Victor and Azir. These mid laners just gatekeeper the mid lane turret forever, like to 25 minutes forever sometimes.
Especially because with the Hex Core itemization for Victor, allowing him the evolution points, especially when he puts it into his laser. Since it's scaling AP based off of his level, as soon as he's level 9, 10, he can pretty much free laser the back wave and just kill all of the creeps in one go. Doinby's
there, Mark II evolution, Hex Core, sorry, and the parts of a Morello Nomicon, as he's got his itemization on the way. Cinderhawk completed for Swift, same there for ZZR, so sticking to more of that tank echo build here, not going for the Rune Glaive. And a Blade of the Ruin King for TNT as the Righteous Glory is on the way for V. Sorry to disappoint.
He'll do it, always.
He'll do it. So Warmogs, it's coming after the Blood of Ages.
It's all about, you think about Xiaogu as a team, they want to rush forward, they want to find the big 5v5, so it will empower Xiaogu's natural playstyle as well as V's natural tendencies. I just think that it's far superior just to build a talisman on TCT and to look for more resistances on your Maokai through either the Frozen Heart, or excuse me, the Glacial Shroud and the Spectre's Cowl, especially because you have TCT on the Janna versus expending the gold into the Righteous Glory.
TNT actually might have to go in. Oh my god, Martin! Nice ulti. Swift was there, but he's actually caught out now. Elegant tag him there with a bit of the passive. You needs to get the slow. One auto not enough for a stun though. But a nice layup there. Gives Snake a kill. That was really cool.
Swift had no idea that that rocket was on the way. He was standing around the corner looking for the cheeky cast so they could outplay you, and suddenly Martin rocket to the face.
And like, important to note, Martin was not mid lane when he fired that. He was like...
He did it from Fog of War,
basically in the tribe rush, yeah. So nice little AD carry gank. Don't see that one too often from the mid lane, but as a result, Doinby again going to eat a bunch of pressure here, although Martin going to go back and spend some of the additional gold he just picked up, I think.
That was super cute.
That was great. Dragon up in 45 seconds, though. People need to go back, spend their gold, make sure they're nice and strong for this Dragon. And Martin is about 1,500 gold ahead of his AD carry. Just went ahead and got himself Berserker Greaves and Infinity Edge all completed up for this next fight.
And this is the scary thing about Jinx. Yeah, she really needs 3 items to kind of go off if she's on the clock, if she's on time with everyone. But right now, Martin is very far ahead in terms of his itemization. Again, going back to the fact that Maokai V, the big tank frontline for Xiaogu, doesn't have any armor.
No, needs it now as well. Won't have it for this. The Scuttlecrab got stolen, I believe, by Swift. They're going to chase in for a kill. Not overextend, though, but just going to wait for that Dragon. 6 seconds left. You're going to get blue buff first. And Snake going to put Flandre on the top lane to apply a bit more pressure.
Super important that we have an Infinity Edge completed for the Dragon fight. I feel like Xiaogu just need to give this one up. Could possibly look for a steal, but actually, TNT does have the completed Blade of the Ruin King. This is going to be close.
Yeah.
I'm curious if they're going to fight it.
Snake actually not overcommitting. Seems like Martin's getting red buff first, which is a curious choice. But he'll do that instead for himself. Get a bit stronger here.
Make himself, yeah, like you said, just a bit stronger for the upcoming 5v5 on the Dragon. Both teams know that this is coming into play, and now my question is, you know, are Xiaogu going to try to pull the trigger on this?
Well, mid lane shove instead here. It's a nice response from Xiaogu. TNT will dodge the Winters by Ella, going to set up for an Unbreakable here. Eats a bunch of damage. Parallel Convergence will zone them off. And Snake will reset for the 5v5.
Both top laners do have the teleport available. Righteous Glory is complete for V, so doesn't have the home guard, but still has pretty strong engage potential.
And this is another funny thing, is that we can both interrupt teleports here, although Flandre can't now. But he's just used his taunt. So me not going to go yet, just going to clear out the waves. And again, both teams playing careful. I think Snake assume if they fight the dragon, they'll get no 5v5, so they want to make sure they actually win that team fight.
Yeah, because that's kind of the difference between a huge snowball on top of Xiaogu or Xiaogu getting their foot back into this. The advantage that Snake especially have is that they have full control over the side lanes because they have the 2 outer towers, which is why TNT needs to go the long way responding to this fight.
Oh, Swift going to go and try and steal
got it.
Does get it, just zones them out. CZR though. Going to dive in onto Swift there. Flunder is there as well, using his ultimate. TNT caught out in the middle as Martin gets ulted up by Lulu, but exhausted as well. ZZR getting low on the back, goes down to Swift. Martin's going to die though by the looks of things. V. Doinbeat is doing too much damage at TNT. Swoops in the cleanup. Snake get absolutely wrecked in that fight.
And we talked about it, you know, this is the difference between Snake finding a big snowball, trying to close out this game, and Xiaogu getting back into it. The power of Victor, how cost efficient and powerful his itemization is for a mid-game spike. And then Vayne had the Blade of the Rune King, had the Janna shield. TCT is only level 7, but that's crazy stats coming out of Xiaogu.
Yeah, they're going to take the mid lane turret as well, and even the gold right back up to dead even between these two teams. And QG just did everything right in that exchange.
Even got the dragon. Perfect steal from Swift. Here we go. So Swift pops into the back, steals the dragon. V, just the beautiful collapse here, making sure that he gets onto that back line and immediately uses the Maokai ult to eat up all of that damage. And then it's really just Doinbeat having the advantage that Snake are in this choke point, that he's able to lay down his laser across 3 members, throw the Chaos Storm down on multiple members, and TNT running through the back.
Yeah, just a bit of cleanup duty there from Vayne, but it all works out there for Xiaogu, using their very strong mid-game to pressure here in that next dragon fight. One apiece now for that particular objective, and again, all back to even with QG getting the very important mid lane turret.
Also got the very important. That team fight was so important for Xiaogu. I can't emphasize that enough. If they had lost that there, Snake probably would have just run away with the game.
Would have at least looked to here is you going to get forced off the bottom lane turret. TNT will collect gold from that for himself with a bit of help there from Ella. And all of a sudden, it's Xiaogu that have the slightest of leads here in this game, about 700 gold. This looks like Snake playing towards the top half of the map, but this is what I talked about. Doinbeat in the mid lane just never leaving and constantly shoving minions away from this mid lane turret.
Has accumulated about a 30 CS discrepancy between the 2 mid laners. Now again, that's going to mean a lot more on the Victor, especially when you're fighting those small corridors because of his AoE Venn diagram damage. Next most important objective for Xiaogu, though, like you said, since Dragon is down, playing towards the top side of the map and securing that last outer, which is why we see TNT here, sneaking in the back of the wave.
Yeah, Fladre reasonably tanky at this point, but no major items completed. Will fall to Vayne. It was a quick QSS, actually. TNT going for the very early snowball choice.
He doesn't need to build, you know, any sort of damage items right now because...
Goodbye, TCT.
Well, I was going to say TCT is level 9.
Caught out warding, unfortunately, as ZZR has to flash that. Swift, though, going to find a casket. Just knocks Fladre back as Ella blocks it with his E. Ulti's not good, though. TNT will claim that kill.
Yeah, really nice positioning from TNT right there to completely dodge the Braum ultimate. That's kind of a funky angle coming out of Ella. You could have just put it straight down the middle of that choke point.
Yeah, I think it was a little off to the side there, but I like the Unbreakable to stop the Gragas ulti from hurting Flandre. Instead, though, they'll just stun up this wave with the Rangers Trailblazer and keep their tower alive for now, but this does not last here for Snake. Xiaogu with the team with all momentum at this stage.
TCT responding to the push that Yu has made.
And again, Snake, nowhere to really play here in this particular game. TCT happy to clean that up, take a couple minions for himself, gets most of them out of the turret, so nice job there.
So you have to think, you know, what are Snake waiting for now? They're waiting for itemization and power coming out of ZZR on his Echo, but more importantly, Martin on his Jinx. And we talked about this before in early Champ Select that Vayne hyper scales, but does get a significant power spike in that mid game, which is the completed Blade of the Rune King with Janna augment. Whereas Jinx now, you know, he didn't get the snowball that he needed. He's still relatively on clock, a little bit ahead of it, but kind of has to wait until you have the Zeal, either Static Shiv or Phantom Dancer upgrade, as well as the Last Whisper.
Yeah, Static Shiv there, so just the Last Whisper away now from hitting that 3-item springboard. But Yu going to take the blue buff for himself now as well. Wander over level 13, got a Rabadon's Death Cap on the way, I have to assume. Amp turn need to see Large Rod. That's cost efficient AP right now, but Lulu also waiting for a 2-item spike. Snake in general, I think, just trying to buy time.
Yep, they just need to farm up, stop the bleeding, and look late game. Jinx has a lot more capability as far as safety and range. especially in Tower Shred itself and Siege, to kind of outmaneuver Vayne late game, or has the capabilities on a kit. A straight 1v1 duel, not many people are going to beat Vayne, but and everything else that Jinx can offer in terms of just making towers disappear and punishing simple position mistakes, no one's better than Jinx.
No. And Snake, they're actually protecting their top lane turret as the Dragon's about a minute away. So Xiaogu have not been able to take that for themselves. But instead, again, going to set up here around the top half. Yu's actually going to clean out the wave again, try and manage that sideway, push it back towards the tier 2 in top. Right now, both teams are sort of content to wait between Dragons. So I think Snake done a nice job of putting their players on the right sides of the map. Although weirdly enough, Yu and Flandre have actually swapped. So might be more concerned about Baron than Dragon at this point.
Although I want to touch in on everyone's CS across the boards, because we talked about how Flandre is so good at, he puts himself at a deficit early, but he's able to farm it back. Now, naturally, he is on Shen, who will build the Bombi Cinder, is really good at split pushing in general, but Flandre just himself is very good at this. We still do have a massive CS discrepancy between Doinby and Yu, and again, that's really punishing on Victor, especially because Xiaogu itemization. They've now got the resistances, so we talked about how V, the very last Dragon fight, he only had the Righteous Glory and was so fundamental in setting that up for Xiaogu. Now he has the Righteous Glory, the Home Guard, and the Resistances ready and waiting.
And it's so interesting to watch, especially even just the CS numbers, and think about how these teams distribute gold to their various carries. You look down and Snake are definitely a lot more about getting the Jinx going and getting Flandre from CS while sacrificing a bit of mid lane, where it's almost the opposite for Xiaogu, where they're happy to give their top laner and mid laner CS and let TNT suffer just a little bit.
Low econ Vayne player.
Swift, they're going in. Good block there from Ella. Ulti's not bad. Swift actually taking quite a bit of damage. TCT gets the resetting with Monsoon, but Swift going to eat the rocket and go down. ZZR diving into the backlines as Flandre goes deep in as well. ZZR pops out with a Chrono Breakers. V's taking a little too much damage. Flandre flashes out at the last second as TNT is trying to find a target, but Martin, he wants the reset so bad, gets himself condemned into a wall. Ella will fall down, but Jinx is going off. Martin just needs one more kill. Can't quite get it, Doinby! Oh, he does get it. Now going to chase down TNT. Yu flashes forward. Martin going to get a crit and just needs the double. Does land it for the double. And Snake clean house.
And that's what we were talking about. I mean, over an elongated fight, Martin on the Jinx has the range. If her front line gets in front of her, she can obviously hit Vayne when Vayne cannot hit her or return any sort of damage, and it just needs that one get excited before the chain reaction takes off. I thought for sure Martin was going to be punished when he flashed forward, but luckily his team was there in front of him.
To make sure to clean it all up here. Martin even had an elixir ready for that fight, so Snake were really trying to get themselves back into the game off that Dragon fight. They get the Dragon, they win the team fight, and they go up and equalize in towers now.
Here we go. Swift, a little bit too overzealous, does try to start the fight, but unfortunately doesn't get kind of the sniping cast that he would have liked. And this is what we were talking about, you know, Swift's natural tendency to go deep. But look at Martin on the side here. This is pretty much the story of Vayne and Jinx, who is going to win out. But just the range and the AoE splash / crits of Jinx rule the day here. I thought for sure that was going to spell disaster, but good protection from Ella. Sacrificed his life for Martin's sins.
Ella was the MVP of that team fight. The absolute MVP.
This snipe is pretty disgusting, especially because here comes Flandre with Home Guard. He's like, I just want an assist.
Nope, not today. Flandre goes for the Dragon instead. But seriously, Ella blocked Bro multi and then made sure Martin didn't die after getting condemned into the torch.
Yep.
And like sacrificed himself.
The unsung hero.
That was some very
Snake.
Yes, Ella. Like you said, a very talented player, really showing it there with Braum mechanics in that fight.
0, 2, and 6 out of Snake's 7 kills. So both Martin and Ella going off this game.
Yep.
The sub 80 carry over Crystal.
Starting to become a bit more like the starter 80 carry, I feel like, because they're playing him more and more, but not confirmed yet.
Jinx is also his champion. If you think about, you know, the first time that we saw Martin, I would describe him as Name-esque, being very position-based, and likewise the fact that he opened up his LPL debut with Jinx.
Yep. And looking good so far. Actually got a pretty substantial CS lead.
Look at that. He's like, Last Whisper? Nah.
Nope,
Bloodthirster.
I mean, against 2 Frozen Hearts, we maybe question that decision, but I can see what Martin's going for.
Something like that. It makes him really good at taking towers. How about that?
Yeah. It's a snowball chase, I think. Snake back up in the lead, 2,000 gold. Martin maybe thinking they're a little further ahead given the itemization, but if he finishes that right now, he's going to be real strong. as he goes back to base.
But the thing is, you know, what team fight are they looking for then? Because Dragon is down, so there's no reason for Xiaogu, unless Snake attempt to force a Baron or to force Xiaogu to check into them. See, that's what that would tell me. With the Bloodthirster completed, Snake should now run to the Baron pit and really force Xiaogu to make it or break it.
Makes sense why Flanders in the bottom lane pushing as a result. Going to try and force some pressure and see if he can get his team vision at least around the Baron area. Martin, they're going to clear out red buff with a bit of smite help there from ZZR. And you back in the top lane trimming waves means it seems like Snake do want to play around that half of the map.
Most important objective, or excuse me, tower on the map for them is going to be that second tier mid tower. So no surprises to see them consolidate their forces here. And again, just kind of touching back onto how LPL teams distribute their gold. You make sure that your mid laner and your AD carry are never in the same lane. We see you pushed up to the top side of the map just so they're not splitting farm and you're making the most out of your resources.
Part of the nice thing about Shen as well, he's able to get a lot of farm by hanging out the side waves. Snake doing a nice 1-3-1 so far. Kind of pivoting around Echo and Braum. Good there. Ultimate. Looking for someone, finds Doinby. Just a message, I guess. Staple to the rocket as Yu's actually the one maybe caught out of position. B, sorry, going to dive in there but get stunned up by Echo. Swift trying to find something. Ella
Martin's
needs to be
locked
patient. Doinby can't get in either. Yu, though, does get knocked back in. He's going to take so much damage. The shield's not there. Shen can't complete the teleport. Flandre now can't join in the fight. And Xiaogu with 1 kill. Might try and force Baron. A
massive misposition. Martin was locked out of the fight, stuck into the mid lane. He could not walk past V's Maokai or Doinby's Victor, but they still have their jungler available.
It's a bit scary as well, but the smite should be enough here for Xiaogu.
Oh, he's in the pit!
ZZR! Oh, he gets the Baron! But Martin and Ella get stunned up there. Doinby doing massive amounts of damage. Martin will die. Flandre going to try and get out. The Braum passive on so many people, but Flandre going to fall. The steal cost them 4 people.
Miscommunication from Snake. They do manage to steal the Baron, but it's just ZZR with it. And that said, with all of Xiaogu's members up there are going to easily walk down through this tower. They needed to commit. We're just going for the steal. We have a 4v5. We can't afford to fight them and just send an Echo for the steal as opposed to collapsing afterwards.
ZZR did get the steal, but he has to watch this tower die. Although only 1 tower there with a Baron buff now for Snake will actually give them a bit more forward movement in this particular game. So pretty crazy topsy-turvy game. We look up at the gold. It's very even between the two sides. We're going to watch this again.
Okay, and so here's what I'm talking about. You just need to commit that you're inside the pit, that we got the steal, and they have to disengage here. Now, the beauty or the hardship here is obviously it's very hard to run away from Xiaogu's composition, especially with that Righteous Glory Maokai, but there's no reason to be that far forward in front of the pit. You have a 4v5, you already burned the Jinx ultimate, you're not going to win there. Look for the steal and negate your losses.
Yeah, well, they got the steal at least, so we'll see what Snake can do with Baron buff, but just lost it on most of their members as a result because they all died. Who is the one that left? It must be ZZR that has it.
The big issue also is we talked about how Snake needed to set up to look for a 5v5 since they had the Bloodthirster advantage on Jinx and kind of got out mispositioned in front of the Baron pit. Now they've lost Baron as an objective to bait to continue to abuse the fact that they did have an item advantage. They can try to do it with Dragon, but it's just not the same impact. So I feel like that was a big key play for Snake to really ramp in this game, and they just threw it away.
Well, we'll see what they do around this Dragon. Up in 8 seconds now as Yu again is just shoving out sideways, but still significantly behind Doinby as far as CS goes. Victor, super strong right now. We've seen him in the team fights, but cooldown boots with an enchantment, perfect hex skull, Ludens, and avoid stuff. Doinby is not mucking around.
Yeah. Big mid-game power spike, especially with that Void Staff to make sure his damage is still comparable.
Raise the teleport!
He's got it!
Oh, Swift steals it. Ulti there from Ella, but they're going to have to disengage, I think. No, ZZR wants it, gets Swift with a stun. B around the side, though, has ported his way in. They have to kite back. ZZR fairly tanky. Does get wild growth up there by Lulu, and they're just fighting in the front line. Cronin break for more health. They're just face tanking the damage. Martin pops his ulti. They're peeling so much for this AD carry as Yu barely pops himself away to safety. Flandre ults in, but gets himself killed, and Martin just getting chased down the front line. Did not have enough health. And that's going to be 3 dead on the side of Snake.
This is the power of Janna and Gragas at any time. Not only do you have the pick potential with the cast from Swift, but you can just reset a team fight. You don't like how that one shook out? Press R.
Well, QG liked all of that, to be perfectly honest with you. That was just Doinby and TNT massacring Snake's front line. ZZR pops in. Can't do anything about this inhibitor, though. QG will get this one for themselves. And Flandre's lacking mana resist. A Banshee's on ZZR is not enough to stop Doinby right now. And they do have a locket, but I feel like Doinby's damage is sort of ignoring all of the resistances right now.
Xiaogu's blue side win rate.
Looking good.
All goes down to the priority pick, understanding, you know, where their power is, how they want to build up these compositions, and who to play around. And Doinby started as the Morgana Lulu player, shifting into this Victor Cassidon god.
Doinby's just a solid player all around. Very versatile.
Korean streamer.
Yeah. Looking good at least in this game. And a pretty good LPL career so far as well in summer. See if he can continue that here. As TNT also getting stronger. Got himself a Phantom Dancer and building in, I guess, an Infinity Edge there as his third item, going pure damage with his first 3 items. So looking for that late game scaling as much. Looking for QSS third. We talked about needing that last Whisper. Is going to delay that once more by trying to pick up that defensive item because he knows there is just too much scary stuff.
The problem is that Xiaogu can melt through Snake's front line without any sort of disruption, and Martin cannot do the same without that last Whisper. He can't. I mean, if V is standing in front of him, it takes so long to get onto the other side of that, so I think that this is a massive error in his itemization. Well,
again, Snake looked for that snowball and just didn't find it. As a result, Martin left farming in the side lanes. Will farm up nicely as the waves crash in towards their base, but Snake just have less options at this point in the game, and Baron might be the big concern. The Dragons are even. Probably afford to give away a third one here, as that should be the next one coming up in about 4 minutes. But Baron should be up relatively soon as well. We had a steal from ZZR to sort of keep Snake in this game. So it's going to need another steal or just a mistake from Xiaogu to prevent the second one not going over to them. I
mean, but the fact that we have to illustrate that it was a steal from Snake, that was their Baron to take, in all honesty. But they mispositioned in front of it. And again, just some slight miscommunication coming from Martin and ZZR, the 2 new subs for Snake. Leaving Martin in the mid lane and not, you know, covering for him to make sure he can get into the back of the fight.
And that's maybe the thing that we have to look at as Snake as we see them close out their regular season for summer. The players certainly seem a lot better. They're at least suited to the metagame, if nothing else, for ZZR and Martin. But the communication is definitely not going to be there. Not immediately, at least.
Yeah. Still look very strong.
They do. Almost like they never left here, but Snake trying to stop this siege. Martin going to do a good job clearing out minion waves. In fact, in general, Snake's defensive wave play is fairly strong.
Are going to go ahead and send Martin home to deal with the crashing super creeps. And again, their mid inhibitor is down, and no one's going to respond to Flandre.
I've seen this before from Snake. Flandre just takes the tower, buys some team some time. I don't know how many of you have heard about the famous AD LeBlanc game, but it was basically won by Flandre just split pushing all game long. So he's at least going to buy his time some team on Shen. So he's team some time on Shen.
Buying some team.
Ooh, Doinby. BM takes the Grom.
It's still a scary situation the longer this game goes. I mean, we talked about this with Xiaogu and EGG yesterday, is that if it comes down to one team fight, that's effectively a 50-50 on who's going to win this game.
You saw nothing.
I saw nothing.
Flandre down the bottom lane now. Going to try and push his way to another tower, at least create some pressure. Again, Snake, you said it already, side wave control is excellent, especially in the hands of someone like Flandre, who the more I see him play, kind of reminds me more and more of like supercharged Acorn.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He reminds me more of Flame, I think, just because it's a bit more oriented towards the carry spectrum versus the utility low econ spectrum. But Flame, as well, in a lot of his interviews, said that it's really important that when he picks up a new champion, the first thing that he tries to study is how to move around the map and manipulate creep waves with the champion. And it's just something that Flandre's really good at. So I would liken him to Flame.
Yeah, I think he's got... Yes.
Yeah.
Sort of like, yeah, maybe supercharged Flame. Maybe just Flame and Acorn combined.
If Flame and Acorn had a love child, it would be Flandre.
We solved it. Because Baron is back up, but Dragon
That'd be a beautiful child.
What are you saying about Flandre? He's still young.
He's super cute. He's just not, you know, Flame, Acorn.
He's a young player. He'll blossom.
Love child cute.
All right, well, let's see. There's Martin going to clear out some creeps here. Super creeps being a nuisance here. TCT glides beautifully through the mid lane. Qiao, though, interested in this Baron, which is why they've got all this vision around it. And I don't know if Snake can really afford anything but another steal attempt from ZZR.
They do have a lot of options. Obviously, it's very easy for Echo to get into the pit with his E, as well as making sure the parallel convergence is dropped in there. Likewise, Martin could look for a snipe.
Yep, that's options here. Flandre also tying V's time up in the bottom side, so it'll probably be 4v4 around the Baron, which maybe forces QG to not want to fight here. And Snake have actually forced them off the Baron area. Inhibitor back in mid lane. All of a sudden,
They need
not
to
full control, but some control back over the map.
They need to quickly run in here and clear out the pink wards on towards the Baron, but Xiaogu doing a good job saying, hey!
These are our wards. TCT even popping Talisman. Oh, V's ported. That opens up a lot of room here for Snake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Missed teleport there for V, you have to think.
That's a big cooldown. Wasted, especially because Fondrick has 2 chances.
Yep.
He's got the Stand United as well as his own teleport. I'm actually really surprised he's in the mid lane as opposed to really applying pressure onto that bottom side. Although, should he appear bottom, it will give the go-ahead for Xiaogu to commit on this Baron.
There's also a stupidly large winning wave in the bottom lane.
Yeah.
So Flandre's done a good job slow pushing that. No surprise there. But Snake, I think just forcing QG to not start Baron more than start a fight here. I don't know if they really want to 5v5 at this point.
ZZR is behind them.
He's going to try something, maybe.
This is
Qiao
cute.
are really trying, though.
They can't taunts down for... I don't even know the cooldown on it. 7 seconds.
Flandre gets out. Dragon actually might be the slightly easier objective to force a fight over, but Xiaogu, they're the ones that we think want to fight here, and they're just going to take this Dragon.
There's no reason to die over 3rd Dragon. Snake didn't have the correct positioning. If they had looked for that fight with ZZR still in the mid lane and lost it there, it would have been probably the game.
Going to lose blue buff there as well. Doinby will steal that away from Snake as Gromp also goes over to TNT. You can see blue pings there onto the mid lane inhibitor. TCT might have caught ZZR, gets the slow. Doinby and Swift going to chase in. Echo, can he escape this time? Gets the time winded down. He's forced to flash as Flandre. Going to run interference for his teammate. And they will disengage successfully, burning a couple cooldowns.
Took the flash, did not burn the Echo ultimate. Likewise, didn't lose his life, although Xiaogu going to go ahead and commit on the Baron.
Yep, ZZR not in position just yet to try and line up a steal. I don't think
Here
Snake can
comes the
make it
rocket.
at all. Rocket going to come in, but it'll be a little too early. And that Baron is going to be secured by Xiaogu.
Wow, Snake just going to let it go, and they knew that it was happening. Martin obviously sending his rocket to check for that, and that creates a 4-minute window where Xiaogu have complete control of the map.
But Martin does have his last whisper, so that tipping point here for the Snake late game.
The 40-minute last whisper, boys. Watch out.
I mean, it's not set in stone, but Snake at least have a chance to maybe take a 5v5. Maybe not right now, although the gold is actually fairly close despite the timeline in the game. And all jokes aside, at least Martin can attempt to do damage to the tanks that way. That was not a thing before.
Likewise, he also has his QSS completed for him, so look at those crits. Don't you just feel good as a Jinx player?
I do. All the minions die. Martin's actually done a good job farming, and again, it's been Snake gifting him a lot of that CS here in this game. You can tell why. 280 CS in 39 minutes is fairly impressive. But he does need to really pull up those carry pants a little tighter, I have to think, because he's got a lot of work to do in this late game fight if Snake is going to take this game.
Snake built a composition around Martin. He has majority of the kills, 6 out of 7 of them, so like you said, he's got to pull up the carry pants. It's all up to him.
Well, right now, Xiaogu going to take the effectively free inhibitor. Baron buff going to mean that Snake really can't afford a fight around the area, so again, he's going to try and create some pressure. But we saw this yesterday from Xiaogu, getting into that late game spot and not being able to close out the game. Snake are a scary late game team.
Goes back to what I said earlier. If this game ever comes to a one-team fight game where the death timers are just super punishing, that's a 50-50 no matter what the composition is, especially between Xiaogu and Snake, who are so good at team fighting.
I feel like we're getting closer to that point. Not quite there yet. As TNT gets some pot shots in onto the tower, Xiaogu really need to break another section of the base here, but Baron buff and the super minions in mid lane could make that a fairly trivial task.
Can't die over this turret. They can look for a misposition, although Swift should be looking for a task. But
we're just going to go. Ella going to block a couple more shots.
Oh, wow.
Flandre diving in, gets the wild growth in. They lock up Doinby, but you zoned out by gravity field. ZZR's forced a chrono break back into the team. But Swift there's going on 5v1. Will fall there as V dives into the backline as well. They need to get into position. Martin's been thrown into the team. TNT goes down as TCT makes a massive play on Jana. And there's just not enough damage. There's too much here from the Victor and Vayne combo. And Xiaogu, 40 minutes in, will take the game.
We talked about Xiaogu, how every single player can carry from any sort of position on their team, but the one guy that we left out was TCT. Huge Jana play right there, flashing forward to separate Martin from his team and to push him back into Xiaogu's waiting arms.
Yep, we saw all the saves from the from the Gragas cast. Can't do that with a Monsoon as Xiaogu, with a very creative play and a nice lead, take game.